So we've been looking at Rails, the web application framework, and we've been seeing how powerful it is and how easy it is to do things securely by default in this framework. And one of the things that makes Rails even more powerful is the community around it. And the community provides some tools which are even more of a useful add-on than some of the default things that you get with Rails. And one of those tools that I especially like and have used in my own work is Brakeman. So Brakeman, the name comes from the concept of somebody on the rail lines who goes around and fixes up certain problems. If there are problems with the tracks, make sure that the trains can run smoothly. And in the Rails world, that's kind of the role that Brakeman has as well. So it's an open source and free tool. Here we go. It's on GitHub, and they have their own website as well. And they have a nice logo. There's a pro version that you can get, and the pro version provides more functionality basically than the free and open source version. But we are going to take a look at the free version here. So we are just going to install it locally. And that's just going to go and grab the file from RubyGems. And there we go. And now we can take a look at the help menu. I believe it is Brakeman space -- help. See, we have the usage here. So it says Brakeman can be used from the root directory. That's where we are. And let's take a look at the help file. Lots and lots of options for how we can configure Brakeman to run. And the reason that there are so many options is that once you start using something like this routinely on your application and you're building it bit by bit, you're going to want to make sure that you can specify the checks for your particular Rails version so that you can do things like say which path to run on, whether to run all the checks or to run some of the checks at a particular point in your development. And basically just configure what rules are checked, how often they're checked, and so on. And also, one really useful thing is how are the outputs formatted. So for example, are you looking for a specific format like HTML, suppose, or are you looking for just it to be output on the screen? Should it have color, no color? And the reason that these things are useful is because then you can add Brakeman to your automated build. So when you are checking in code in continuous integration, you can have a continuous security scan. And the benefit of something like that is now you don't need to rely on a particular person to go and perform certain security activities. So you can just have them hook it up into a build automation system. For example, on GitHub, there is a system called Travis CI, and something like GitLab have their own CI, and there's tools like Jenkins and so many other pipeline-based tools that provide you with the functionality for doing continuous integration builds. And if you have a Rails application, you can add some tasks to your Rails application build in order to do the security scan. But enough about that. Let's take a look at how it runs. And so you see it did all these checks. It went through the full structure of my cybersecurity Rails application here. And we know that this application is not secure because we've been using it to look at some of these security issues. And so it went through and did some auth checking, some evaluation checking, and some of the things like coding and encoding that we talked about. And so you see that by default, there's a lot of checks that are turned on. And here's the report. So you see it's outputting the report on the screen in the output of the call to the terminal application, to the command line application. It says here's when the scan was run, here's when the checks run. Here's how long it took. Here's the checks. Here's the version of Rails. Here's the version of Brakeman. And the reason that all this information is so explicitly stated is that this way, if you run this as part of your build system, or you run this and get the output file, then you can have almost like an audit trail of what exactly you have been doing for security purposes. So if somebody is your customer or client, or you're working for a organization, you can always have this nice audit trail of here's our security practices and here's how we've been tracking the security and development of our application. So you see there's an overview of what we have, and there's 5 warnings. And the warnings are command injection, cross-site scripting, mass assignment, and SQL injection. So no surprises there. Those are some of the things that we've left in our application. So you'll see command injection here. It found the command injection that we were doing on purpose, found another one, and it says it's very confident that this is a command injection. And then there's cross-site scripting, which we also know about. So it found it in our file called cross-site scripting. That's a good sign. And then we have something here with the mass assignment issue. And this is where, remember, we were adding admin as a required param. And that was allowing us to push it through as a hidden input to our sign-up form so that someone could make themselves an admin. So it found that. And then right at the end, it found this SQL injection, and that's what we put in there as well. So it's a pretty good tool, as you can see. It found all of the issues that are specifically in the code. I mean, there are certain ones like the XML issue that we were working on that it won't find as easily. And then there's a couple things like, suppose, the fact that our passwords aren't in password text fields, that it's not finding by default, but you can configure the checks and then you can have it do some additional checking that would show those problems as well if it scans through the templates. So another thing that I want to show you here is the output file. So the output file is very useful, as I said, for having a sort of record of what has been run. And so we're going to just try that out. We're going to call it securityreport.html. And so now if we open security report HTML, there you go. It provides a pretty nice looking HTML report, so you can actually have a build system that's online, that's a website, and you can hook up your build system to have a link to the latest security report. And so when somebody goes to your GitHub repo or to your internal project repo, they can click and see what's the current status of the development of a particular application. And you'll see that there's even this kind of badging system, and you can build custom badges to look at your security status as well if you want to, and it'll show whether it's green, red, percentage-wise, and so on. So that is Brakeman. I hope you like this overview of a real security tool that's, as you can see, very popular in the community. And hopefully this gives you some ideas for building and designing your own tools.